Heifers, and welcome to Angus IT, the podcast all about anxiety, depression, and today, Cool Ranch Doritos. What? Haven't had those in ages. Bought a big bag. Just shoved a ton of them down my throat just now, and I am vibing, and it's great. And we're just going to talk about nothing but Cool Ranch Doritos. Why is the seasoning so beautiful, like a Christmas tree? Like the colors look so gorgeous. Why eat a chip that tastes like ranch, but it's so good? Would I like it if they were just called ranch chips? No, I want them to be cool ranch chips. It's bizarre. But also, I guess I'm going to talk about, like, it gets better. But, like, more important than mental health, snacks. Yeah, today we're going to talk about the phrase, it gets better. And I have always had a lot of thoughts about this. I've mentioned this many times throughout the tenure of this podcast, how I'm not, like, the biggest fan of that. And yet at the same time, it is a helpful quote. It's very confusing. And this is like an out loud conversation. So let me know what you think. But I would like to start off by saying I don't like it because it's usually said to people who are going through it now. And while it's a nice sentiment, it doesn't do anything for them in the moment. And a lot of people, when they're really up in their feels or they are not doing well, hearing it'll get better later is sometimes you're like, will later ever happen? Because it's not like, you'll feel better by September 12th. It doesn't do that. It's just at some point ambiguously in the future. And time for me, sometimes when I'm really down, it doesn't exist. I lose track of the days. Days might go by really quickly. They might go by slowly. And if things are going slowly, the agony of thinking, God, I have to wait 10 years before I feel better, it's not good. So I don't like the phrase in the sense that I don't think it's as helpful as we would wish it would be in the context. However, I do think the sentiment is nice. I just don't know if it should be like the main hitter we throw out there when making people feel better. I do believe time can heal a lot of wounds. I don't think that means they always go away. I don't think it always is the best, but that's why they say it gets better, not cured. Done with, kaput. When I first started understanding that something wasn't right with me, I had a lot of issues trying to figure out how could I possibly live this way for the rest of my life. Like, ew. I was not functional as a human being. I unfortunately was high functioning to other people, but internally I was a dumpster fire with more gasoline getting poured on it every single day right by a forest and then a town made of nothing but wood. It was chaos. And I just imagine if someone had told me it gets better, I'd be like, well, where's your proof? Like, I've been doing this for a while. What, is something magically going to happen at some point? Like, I don't fully understand. And so I wanted, though, in this episode, I'm going to try to. I don't know if I'll be successful, but we're just going to see what happens. I want to try to offer the it gets better thing because I hate it. It does, but I want to make it realistic and maybe help someone going through it now. Does that make sense? Like, we're going to try to see if we can make this work because I think it can. And I do like it. I'm not sure what the translation needs to be. So we're just going to do out loud thinking. Welcome. Put on your seatbelts. This is going to be a ride. Okay. I think the first issue to discuss is when we look in the future or we try to look in our past and we go, was I happy as a child? That is a very broad spectrum of time. And this clearly depends on everyone's experience. But if we're just kind of going with run of the mill, whatever, we probably remember a lot of the painful moments and some of the good ones, and then we don't really remember the in-between. I don't have like a fantastic memory, so maybe you do remember a lot of every single moment, but like I couldn't tell you what happened in 4th grade or 6th grade. Just cringe, I guess, would be the first thing that comes to mind. And I think that is for a lot of people. But, you know, were you happy as a child? You can have an overall yes or no, but I think when you try to get granular, it's like, well, I guess fourth grade could have been a great year and fifth grade could have been an awful year. So between those 2 years, was I happy? I guess no, but like, yeah, it's hard to label an emotion for such a long stretch of time. I even struggle with days. There are clearly bad days, don't get me wrong, but there are frustrating mornings and then good afternoons and great evenings. And sometimes we just still label it as a bad day because the morning was frustrating, but like, was it? What's our perception on that? So I know I am someone who tends to do the broad paint stroke of over periods of time. And I'm trying to get better about looking back and being like, I mean, was it really that bad? And that's not to, when I say that, I'm not going back and being like, was my pain really that bad? Or was I just whining and making up? That's not what I'm saying. It's more like, am I allowing the depression week I had to completely black out the entire month? You know, I have to remind myself, wait, good things did happen. This, and this. And I'm like, oh shit, right. So I think that it gets better sentimentality can get misconstrued because when, and what do we mean by that? I think the problem too is like your mental health can get better, but then some other bullshit can happen. And so it's like, well, did it get better? What do you mean? And I think for me, it's like, I would say I'm in the prime of my mental health. I feel pretty snazzy. I think this is like the best I've ever been, but life kind of crumbled around me a bit there. So it got better, but you know, I think the journey getting there wasn't really fun. And I only recently realized it did get a lot better. I'm very happy, despite all of this. So I think it's hard to recognize on the journey that we are getting better sometimes. It's not as obvious. And unfortunately, there are sometimes really long stretches of time, months on end, where you're just gross and you're feeling gross, and then suddenly the one thing finally pops up and you're like, okay. And then like you move on to the next thing. I'm thinking a lot about like jobs and stuff like that. Like you feel like you're stuck somewhere and then like you finally find this new amazing fellowship somewhere or something, you apply and you get it and you're like, oh, fuck yeah. That's why I like to check in with myself a lot, because then it's easier to note that things are getting easier or they're not as painful to do. And I think that's where the it gets better phrasing can be true. It's not maybe significant changes that are obvious when you're not paying attention, but I will say I think a lot of that is better things happen in life. You get more freedom. Like I think being a kid is so hard and being a teenager is so hard because you, especially as a teenager, I mean, you're kind of given these like adult responsibilities, but without the respect necessarily all the time. And it is, you know, I think a mixture of you are younger and maybe you don't exactly know how everything works, but you're also not an idiot. Like, you know how things work. Does that make sense? Like, you can understand life things more at that point, but people maybe discredit you immediately. And I think that's hard to battle with when also, like, you haven't gotten to experience the full adult world yet. So you're in this weird limbo. And it's just sort of like, okay, it gets better because, like, when I turn 18, I go off to college and I finally have freedom. That's good to know, at least. What do you do in between then? So while it's annoying, I am about to go on a rant about how it does get better. It gets better because I made it get better. I asked for help. I had great friends help me. They were the ones who were like, maybe you should go see a doctor. And I was like, okay. And so I think it's easy for me to go back on my experience and be like, wow, I really dragged my feet. Everything was a series of like good luck. Things fell right into place, just by coincidence. But now I can look back and be like, no, I fought for this. Like, I worked really hard to get to where I am, but I clearly didn't realize that at the time. But it doesn't have to be drastic or wild. It really can just be like talking to a friend more. Like, maybe you don't ever share your emotions. Maybe give that a whirl. That might be all you need. You might just need to express yourself. Sometimes we need therapy or other professional help. And professional help always sounds like creepy and weird, like we're in test tubes and they're like poking your brain. It's just like, get someone with a degree in the shit that knows about it. Like, these people are passionate enough about it that they went to extra school. So, like, clearly they're nerdy about it. They give a shit, you know? So I think sometimes it's a small step that can make a huge difference. And so when it gets better, it means that you are trying, and it's acknowledging that, and that your effort will pay off. So I'd rather it be like, you can do this and it will pay off, and you will see the payoff in the future. As someone who has done that exact journey, I can tell you it paid off. Even every step back, like medications that didn't work, it paid off because it helped me get to where I am today. And I continued to learn more about myself and feel better. And I kept saying like, hey, this isn't working. I don't feel great. And so I kind of want you to feel like you can say that and do that. And so it does get better. Did that make it better? I don't know if it did. I'm really hoping it did. I like to say the phrase, I will feel better again, because I know I've felt better before. That tends to help more because it acknowledges that I have had that good feeling at some point in my life, and I know that I can recreate it. With bipolar, you have the stretches of manic, stretches of fine, stretches of depression. I just stopped enunciating. I was like, fuck it, whatever. Y'all can understand, right? But there are those stretches. Like I kind of have more of a calendar, weirdly enough, with how I'm going to feel. And so I knew when I was depressed, I was like, okay, well, and this was before I was even diagnosed. I just was noticing this weird pattern. I was like, oh, this is great. But when I was depressed, I was like, I know in a couple days I'll feel better. And it's kind of like having something to look forward to, even though none of it was good. But when then I would be manic and anxious, I'd be like, I know that at some point this will get better. And I know we all don't have the convenience of a content calendar for our mental health, but I think holding on and recognizing that like feelings are fleeting, they pass, and that you will feel that emotion again. I think that's a really good baby step. That helped me mentally. And so the more you do that, and again, like I think sometimes things sound a lot harder than they are, and things are hard. What I'm trying to say is I don't want you to hear the marathon journey I just told you of my entire mental health and get overwhelmed. This was like 10 years in the making. And I'm not saying it'll take you a decade to feel great. I felt amazing throughout those years. I'm not going to blanket over it and be like, oh, I'm just saying I finally have a medication that's made it really easy to feel amazing, if that makes sense. But I had amazing moments, and I will say I had very happy stretches there. It wasn't all like chaos, doom and gloom and thunderclouds. Like I've had a very fun decade, I would say. It's just there's been some really not fun things in between it. But I don't want you to listen to this podcast and hear me talk about my past and how I'm like, ugh, and think that I haven't been happy the whole time. I didn't have great moments. And maybe there were even moments where, dare I say, stretches of time, I was more happy than I was anxious and gross. I think what this turned into was me trying to convince everyone that it will get better, because I do truly believe that. It just requires the first step of being like, hey, I need to do something about this. I think acknowledging that is great. Acknowledging that maybe things aren't okay, I think is a great step, because acknowledging the problem means now you can work on it. You have a name for it. If you're going through it right now, I want to tell you, I'm sorry you're not feeling great. And I know it's hard. I've been there. I continue to be there. Off and on, it comes and it goes. But I'm happy that we're kind of in a day and age where the internet's like not the best place. And I'm not saying you should like self-diagnose yourself there and everything, but there's a lot of good information out on the internet. And I think just starting off with the basics can help at least give you a good, like, this is where I am. A resume on your feelies, on your mental health, on your brain. I have a lot of episodes that kind of talk about how to get through rough patches. There are episodes I've recorded going through a rough patch. So you can listen to those if you want to get more perspective on what it's like when you're in it. I think sometimes it's hard for me to truly reflect the feelings because I'm not in it right now. I'm actually feeling pretty good. And I'm not gonna lie, my brain doesn't really want me to think about that because I do feel good. But that's just to say, like, look, I did it and I didn't have like half the information that is available now. So I feel so positive for you, and I feel so hopeful for you. I really think you're going to get through it, and I think you're going to do it. And I think that you have more strength than you probably realize. And it does get better, and it's going to get better because we all believe in you, and you will end up doing it. You'll do the good thing. You will get better because you want to. And I know sometimes maybe we don't think we want to, but I think deep down you do. And we want you to feel better. Everyone wants you to feel better. I don't care whatever toxic bullshit people are in your life. The majority of humanity, me included, would like you to feel better. And so we're rooting for you. We want that for you. And so fuck them. Live your best life, and we want you here. And I will throw confetti at you whenever you want. If you don't want me there, too bad. I'm throwing confetti at you. I will throw confetti at you until you do something. And then I will cheer you on the entire way. We all will. So it gets better, and you will get through the now, and I believe in you. There's so many tools at your disposal. Again, I've got a resources page. I got all these other episodes. There's some really other great podcasts out there. There are podcasts run by actual therapists and psychiatrists who can probably offer more in-depth information if you're in a situation where you're on someone else's health insurance and maybe they don't believe in mental health. Isn't that great? Or maybe you don't have the same support system. I think it's so great now that we do have these good communities online. I would just make sure you're in a good community, not one that's just like, I don't know. There's some not great people out there. Don't get someone who's just trying to sell you like oils and soaps, I would say. Stress and anxiety and depression and all these things are a little different. A lot of things can help soothe us, but they don't help with the underlying issue, which is sometimes a chemical imbalance. And it can be spooky, I understand. But it's really empowered me having all this information on hand. So I fully believe that you can do this, and that you are going to find the answer you need, and that you are going to come up with a strategy. And it might be, strategy one maybe doesn't work out, so you try strategy two. But I think and know, based on experience and witnessing humanity in life, whatever, you're going to get through it. And I want you to go do something that makes you a little happy. Maybe stand up and walk around your house. Go offer to grab the mail from the driveway. Like literally the 30-second walk. I don't care. Go outside, touch a thing, come back inside. Weirdly, small shifts in our perspective can really help do a lot. And I'm also going to tell you to take a shower. Just do it. Time yourself. See if you can make it a game. That used to help me. I'd be like, can I shower in 2 minutes, and see what happens. And then worst case scenario, you're just like covered in water. But whatever, you did more of a shower. So just baby steps. I got you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Angus IT. That was a weird conversation, but thank you for listening to it. You can follow me on Instagram at Angus IT. That's Angus like the cow, I like the body part, and T like the drink. I hope that you are able to look at your life one day, and maybe it is now, and you get to look back and you're like, you know what? It did get better. I figured out what to do with my hair. That got better. That for sure got better. I guarantee there's always something that got better. So hold on to those things. It got better. I got a dog. And she didn't know how to go up the stairs. But now she doesn't fear stairs. It got better. I hope that if you're afraid of stairs, you can walk up them. There you go. And with that, I will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye, Heifers.